Good afternoon. This is KTN Newsdesk, where we bring you the news as it happens. My name is Edith Kimani, and keeping with our theme of bringing you the news as it happens, let's begin this bulletin in Yolo, where 5 people were killed and 9 others suffered bullet injuries when 2 pastoralist groups clashed at a livestock watering point in Ngaremara ward. That's in Yolo County, and that was yesterday evening. Now, the pastoralists, who are from 2 different communities, were reportedly involved in attacks and counterattacks for the past few months, and they came into contact at Atan watering point. And it's here that an exchange of fire ensued and 5 people died, with 9 others sustaining injuries. The wounded are recuperating at Isiolo Level 5 Hospital, and we now speak to the Isiolo County Commissioner, Wanyama Musiambo, who joins us by way of telephone. Mr. County Commissioner, thank you so much for joining us. Perhaps the first thing is to give us an update on just whether those who are responsible for this have been apprehended and if there are any security forces after them.
Thank you so much. Yesterday, the 26th, around midday, the 2 groups met at a watering point, right, that is within Ngaremara ward, and the Turkana, the incident, the information, the initial report we have is that Turkana had taken their cows to the watering point, and when they were coming out of the watering point, that is when they met their Samburu counterparts. Now, that area where the incident took place is traditionally a Turkana grazing area. And therefore, the Turkana, they were simply coming out of the watering point, and then they encountered the Samburus, and an exchange of fire ensued, where unfortunately 5 people lost their lives and 9 people were injured. The injured are recuperating at the Yolo District Hospital or the sub-county hospital, and these people were fighting inside the cattle. You know, the Turkana had just removed their cows from the watering point, so they were still pushing their cattle when the contact occurred. And therefore, as they were fighting, also 9 cows were injured. I personally led the security team to the place to separate the 2 groups from continuing to fight, which we succeeded to do. And even as I speak, we are still in the bush pursuing the attackers. So far, we have not made an arrest, but I can assure you that the situation now is calm because we have put security all over, and we will pursue the attackers. We will pursue anybody who did that to the bitter end, because we have 5 people dead, or 5 people have lost their lives, and we have the injured, and this one cannot go on like this. So shortly you will be hearing from us. We are going to take very, very decisive action on this matter.
All right. Well, County Commissioner, you're saying that you're pursuing the people who are behind this, but we do have reports that this is something that has been happening perennially. So are there any long-term things that are being put in place to ensure that, for example, this does not lead to another counterattack?
Yeah, we have done that. You know, what has been happening is that these 2 communities, they have been stealing from one another, stealing and counter-stealing from one another. But now, we have put several measures, we have held meetings with them, and now, as we speak, apart from pursuing what we are doing, we have also scheduled a meeting with the leaders from both communities. Not that this will be our first meeting. We have held several meetings with the leaders from both sides before. There is a meeting we held at a place called Kalama. There is a meeting I personally led in a place called Eremet. There is a meeting I've held in a place called Atan. Those are just among the meetings we've held with the leaders with the local communities. But now we also want to zero in to see if there is some incitement on both sides or on either side. And we are pursuing also that angle and investigating. And if we get it, then apart from the people who attacked, whom we are pursuing, we will also start going for the inciters. If the investigation in that area leads us to concrete evidence of incitement, we are going to deal with that one also firmly and swiftly to ensure that this thing does not continue or does not escalate.
All right. County Commissioner, before I let you go, obviously Isiolo County bordering other counties where similar clashes have been witnessed. Is it correct to assume that Isiolo is also endeavoring on a disarmament program?
I wanted to confirm that Isiolo County has been relatively calm. And there are several communities living in Isiolo. The only problem we're having now is between these two communities, the Turkana and the Samburu counties. Those are the only two that are now engaged in this activity. And when the disarmament that is taking place in the neighboring place, when it starts, definitely, the Isiolo will be in the loop, because these two groups, they are fighting because they are both armed. And they are armed with illegal firearms. These are not KPR firearms that they are using. They are using illegally acquired firearms, which must be removed from their hands, so that now we settle and we have lasting peace.
All right. Well, thank you very much, County Commissioner Wanyama Musiambo, the County Commissioner of Isiolo County, where, as we've reported, 5 people were killed and 9 others suffering bullet injuries when 2 pastoralist groups, now confirmed to be of the Samburu and Turkana communities, met at a watering point in an area known as Ngaremara Ward, which is in Isiolo County. And so that's the update that we've gotten, and obviously we'll keep an eye on this story for you and follow up and give you more details in our subsequent bulletins. Let's now go to what has been described as a landmark ruling. The Aga Khan Hospital in Nairobi has been ordered to fund the upbringing of a child who was conceived after a long-term contraceptive implant on her mother failed. Now, the High Court directed Aga Khan University Hospital Family Planning Clinic to pay the woman 4.3 million shillings to cater for the unplanned child. Now, Justice Hatari Waweru also ordered the hospital to pay the woman a further 500,000 shillings for pain and loss of her comfort. The court heard that the now mother of 3 visited the clinic for a long-term birth control as she did not want to have more children. The woman said the reason she didn't want a 3rd child was because she and her husband were already struggling to bring up their 2 children. So she told the court that on July 4th, 2011, the hospital advised her that Implanon was the most appropriate contraceptive method for her. She was assured that the implant would secure her from pregnancy for at least 3 years, only for her to get pregnant again. She told the court that news of the pregnancy was extremely devastating, traumatizing, and that she suffered mental distress. She also testified that the unwanted pregnancy created a strain in her marriage because her husband thought that she had lied about going for the birth control. Obviously, we wait to see what will come from this, especially given the conversation on precedent. Elsewhere, 4 girls who had been arrested and detained for trying to cross into Somalia to join Al-Shabaab as Jihadi brides will have to wait longer before they can be free. This is after the magistrate declined to give them bond, saying all parties must be heard. Here's John Juma with that story.
The senior principal magistrate Richard Odenyo has declined to give bond at this moment. He, however, says that same application can still be made when the case proceeds for trial. According to Odenyo's ruling, the suspects are alleged to be harboring intention to join a terror group. And considering several terror attacks being witnessed in the country at the moment, he found it inappropriate to give a bond until the matter is heard during trial. He has, however, ordered prosecution to fast-track the case, considering that the suspects will serve more days in police custody. The case is scheduled for 12th June, where hearing starts. It is alleged that the 3 suspects were arrested in Eluak while en route to Somalia to join a terror group, while the 4th suspect was arrested recently in Nairobi. She is believed to be the trainer of the 3 suspects, one of them coming from Zanzibar.
Look at politics now. An ODM Nakuru branch chairman is a man under siege after, just days after he attempted to shoot a journalist who were covering a story on a controversial settlement scheme in Gilgil. Nakuru ODM members now say the politician must be held accountable for his actions which do not conform to their ideals. They further say that he will no longer be in charge of affairs of the party until the matter is investigated and concluded.
It all started with confused residents who attempted to use part of the road in Oljerai settlement scheme that had been closed by Peter Ole Osono. And it was not long before the Nakuru ODM party branch chairman got wind of the trespass, and when he arrived, Nakuru politician was willing to defend what he called his land at all costs, including shooting at journalists who had gone to the controversial Oljurai settlement scheme in Gilgil to find out if a public land that had been closed down by the politician was opened as directed by the National Land Commission. And for a while, it was a show of might between the politician and the local residents who maintained that the road that had been closed by Ole Osono was greatly inconveniencing hundreds of school children who had to walk an extra 3 kilometers to access school. The actions of Ole Osono has caught the attention of members of his party, who now say he must be held accountable for his actions.
The law is going to take its course, and Ole Osono must be answerable.
In the meantime, they say he has no business taking charge of the affairs of the party in Nakuru.
We have taken charge and control of the party affairs in Nakuru County, officially.
Ole Osono has since been disarmed, while the locals maintain that the closed road must be opened for their children's sake.
From security to a national health policy, and now the Kenya University Staff Union, or KUSU, have called for the suspension of the new National Hospital Insurance Fund, or NHIF, premiums, and are now demanding all the dues that have been irregularly deducted from workers be refunded. Addressing the press today, KUSU Secretary General Chance Mukwaya condemned the move by the government and NHIF board to increase the NHIF rates without consulting them as stakeholders.
We have given the government actually 2 weeks to get that matter out of their way. If they don't, then we will finally wait for the outcome of the court. We have instructed our lawyers to move ahead, and the case is actually ongoing. If anything, we are waiting for the ruling. If the ruling happens not to be in favor of what we are requesting them to do, then that's the time that we may now resort on any other method of trying to get this matter resolved.
Baringo County Speaker William Kamket has been reinstated after he won a case that sought his suspension. While delivering the ruling of the case, Judge George Kimondo said the County Assembly has no powers to suspend the Speaker. He was categorical that the Speaker is an ex officio member and a notice of motion can only be moved to ordinary members of the Assembly. He also noted that the Speaker may be removed from office through a resolution supported by not less than 75% of all members of the County Assembly. He also did say that the notice of suspension was improperly conducted, adding that they should have been given to the Speaker early notice. The Speaker has not extended an extended an olive branch to the County Assembly officials who had fronted for his suspension.
I want to take this opportunity with the advice of the court, of course, and with sound political advice from my friends here, to extend an olive branch to the members of the Baringo County Assembly to accept that because justice has been done to each and every one of us, let us come together. A lot of time has been wasted in these battles instead of us building our beloved county of Baringo. I want to ask them to accept this judgment and accept that tomorrow or the day after, I shall be back to office to exercise the functions and responsibilities they bestowed upon me as the Speaker, the first democratically elected Speaker of Baringo County Assembly.
A family from Guruka village in Imenti Central is counting losses after one of their members hired goons and invaded the family land, destroying crops and several houses in a land tussle. According to Lawrence Mugano, one of the family members, his late father had left them 3.5 acre piece of land to be divided between 5 siblings. However, one of the nephews has been claiming that the land was left under his name by his grandfather. Lawrence claims that his nephew took his father and stayed with him in Nairobi for several years before he died, and after his demise, the nephew came to the village and claimed ownership of the land with a fake title deed. This is not the first time that the said nephew has invaded the land with armed hooligans. The family is now living in fear and is appealing to the government to assist them.
Alienda na baba, tukakaa, tukamaliza kama miaka 10, ndiye alikuja na title kuonyesha ati shamba ni yake, aliachiwa na baba yetu. Na tukashindwa, baba alimwachia shamba namna gani na sisi hatukuwa najua.
Siku ya kwanza alikuja akakata kahawa, akanikatia kahawa ikiwa na kahawa. Saa hii hata ukiangalia chini iko kahawa iko chini ya hiyo mahindi. Alikata yote, maandisi yalikuwa na maandisi yako tayari kukomaa, akachukua hiyo akakata ikawa chini. Saa hii alikuja tena na mahindi mengine, wakachukua tena wakakata mahindi, maandisi tena wakamaliza.
Tire manufacturer Samia Africa is in the process of modernizing its tire manufacturing plant in a bid to reduce the cost of production and also boost profitability. Samia is currently in advanced stages of negotiations for a partnership with a technical and equity investor that is meant to help modernize the plant and related infrastructure. Samia has faced stiff competition from imported tires that have seen it shed market share.
Staring at a 66 million shilling loss in 2014, Samia has been looking for a strategic investor to turn around its tire business to steer the ship. The company is in talks with interested parties for a 40% stake in the company. The strategic partner will be expected to bring technical expertise that will help it upgrade its tire factory to keep up with those in Asia, which produce most of the brands sold by rivals in the local market. The flooding of cheaper tires into the market has been a big challenge for the company as it seeks to stay profitable. In 2014, revenues dropped 6% to 3.78 billion shillings. Already, Samia has entered into an agreement with a Chinese tire manufacturer to manufacture its new Summit brand, launched late last year, to offer competition to the cheaper imports.
We face a number of major challenges, and that is one of them is dumping. We find that Kenya is a market where dumping is widespread. We also have very porous borders.
The introduction of Summit brand is meant to enhance the company's competitive presence in the regional market as it seeks to reclaim the already lost market share and increase sales. The group also plans to introduce additional sizes and increase production quantities of the Summit brand.
The majority of those tires land here at a cost, duty paid and transport, which is actually less than the cost of our raw materials for the same tire.
As part of its growth strategy, Samia Group has also been pursuing an ambitious strategy to grow its retail network by opening new Yana tire centers with the aim of getting closer to consumers, bringing the total number of its centers to 16 within the East African region.
Our aim is to take tire solutions as close as possible to the customer, the end user.
To reduce its exposure from the East African market, Samia is also expanding to Nigeria, Mauritius, Mozambique, and Madagascar, where it expects to boost its sales.
All right, we take a short commercial break. When we come back, I'll be bringing you an update on the heat wave that has rocked India, as well as all the sporting action. Stay tuned. Welcome back to KTN Newsdesk. We're glad you're still watching. An intense heat wave in India has killed more than 1,100 people in less than a week. The southern states of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana are the hardest hit. Making matters worse, millions across the country don't have access to electricity. Here's Malika Kapoor with more from Mumbai.
An extreme heat wave is sweeping across India. Temperatures are soaring, touching 48 degrees Celsius, that's 118 degrees Fahrenheit in some places. The states of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana in the south are the worst hit. The capital New Delhi, parts of Rajasthan in the west and Bengal in the east are reeling from the heat too. The most vulnerable, people who don't have access to shelter, the homeless, construction workers, beggars, migrant laborers who often live on the streets, and the elderly. Local disaster management officials in some states are urging people to stay indoors between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. They're asking them to wear cotton clothes, to use caps and umbrellas. And they're also distributing water and buttermilk to help people stay hydrated and to remain cool. The heat wave exposes India's weak spot, power. Around a third of India's 1.2 billion people don't have reliable access to power. That means they don't even have a fan to cool off under. It also means those who can afford air conditioners are using them for much longer. This surge in demand for power often leads to power cuts in many parts of the country, making a terrible situation worse. Unfortunately, relief is still far off. Meteorologists say the monsoon rains, which will no doubt bring down temperatures, won't hit until at least the end of the month. Malika Kapoor, CNN, Mumbai.
And in the sports, Kenya's javelin sensation Julius Yego inked his name to sports folklore last night when he scaled new heights in the world of javelin throwing. Yego, the Commonwealth champion, threw a national record in his third attempt at the IAAF World Challenge, the Golden Spike in Ostrava. His 86.88 meters throw was the winning distance on a night when Kenyan track athletes failed to sparkle.
Kenya's top athletes lined up in various races at the IAAF World Challenge, the Golden Spike in Ostrava. But it was this man, Julius Yego, who stole the show. His throw of 86.88 meters did not only take him to the lead, but erased his own national record.
And that smile tells you it's a new national record. David Brodisha.
But what could have warmed the cold and wet track in Ostrava turned out to be an anticlimax. David Rudisha, who entered for the 600 meters, was expected to spice the evening. But 200 meters after the gun, the world record holder over 800 meters pulled out in what looked like a thigh injury.
He's pulled up with some sort of a thigh injury. And Kiprop sitting in there in second spot.
Asbel Kiprop too fell short of his expectations in the mile. Fresh from breaking the Kipchoge Stadium 1500 meters record over the weekend, Kiprop finished second behind Martin Lewandowski. Timothy Kiptum was third.
Has he got the legs? Well, it doesn't look like it. We're going to have a shock here. Lewandowski has come through to nick.
A couple of meet records were set, but the night ended with Usain Bolt, the multiple world and Olympic champion, easily winning the men's 200 meters race. Kenya's Kevin Kamata may have finished fifth in the race, but he will be more happier to have competed in the same race with the world's fastest man, Usain Bolt. Joshua Kimboy, KTN Sports.
Ukrainian outfit FC Dnipro will attempt to stop Sevilla from winning back-to-back titles when the pair meet in the conclusion of the tournament in Warsaw this evening. The title itself is of huge importance to both teams, but the fact that the victor will gain an automatic spot in next season's Champions League is another major incentive.
The Europa League is often seen as Europe's second tournament behind its richer, glitzy brother, the Champions League. But the final tonight should prove that it's a competition well worth watching in its own right. FC Dnipro will face Sevilla, one of the strongest teams in the competition with a pedigree in this tournament. Meron Makevia's side showed its mettle for the big occasion by knocking out Napoli in the semi-final stage. Moreover, Dnipro heads into the contest with a morale-boosting 3-2 victory over Shakhtar Donetsk, the 2009 Europa League winners. The side will, however, make do without injured Shehiri Klyavchenko and Roman Zozulia. Sevilla are the current holders and have already won the title 3 times, making them favourites for the final at the Stadion Norway in Warsaw. Their manager Unai Emery is also sought by a number of clubs including West Ham and AC Milan, and he may be moving on after this, but he would live at an all-time height if he gets another winner's medal and secures a Champions League football for his side at the same time. Last year's final went to penalties and was full of drama, and many are hoping for another dose of something similar tonight.
Well, that's where we wrap up this edition of KTN Newsdesk. Not before we give you your Did You Know fact. Did you know that during his trial, there's a serial killer who was also a convicted rapist known as Rodney Alcala, and he acted as his own attorney. That's not unusual, except he interrogated himself on the witness stand for 5 hours. So he kept addressing himself as Mr. Alcala and asking questions in a deep voice, and then he would answer the questions as himself in a soft voice. As you may imagine, he did not win that trial. In fact, was convicted to death in 2010, but he hasn't died yet. In 2013, more charges were added onto him, and this guy was really unstable. He appeared on a dating game show while he was busy killing people during his serial killing spree days. How will that help you? I don't know, but now you know. My name is Edith Kimani. Good afternoon.